In this video, we will take a clear, practical look at the key threats surrounding MitID in Denmark and what you, as a business leader, can do to protect your organization intelligently and efficiently. MitID has become a cornerstone of digital identification for Danish citizens and companies, enabling secure access to banking, public services, and a growing range of private sector platforms. That central role makes it both a powerful enabler and an attractive target. Our goal today is not to create alarm, but to give you a structured understanding of the main risks and the concrete steps you can take to manage them with the same discipline you apply to financial or operational risk. Let us start with the most common threat: social engineering and phishing. Criminals increasingly bypass technical controls by focusing on the human element. They use convincing emails, SMS messages, fake websites, and even phone calls that appear at first glance to be from trusted Danish banks, public authorities, or well-known service providers. Their objective is to trick your employees or customers into entering their MitID credentials on a fraudulent page or approving actions they do not fully understand. In a typical scenario, an employee receives what looks like a legitimate message about an urgent invoice, a tax refund, or a MitID security update. When they follow the link, they land on a site that closely mimics the official MitID design. Once they enter their user ID and approve the login on their device, the attacker can attempt to access banking services or company systems linked to that identity. The technology behind MitID is robust, but the human factor becomes the vulnerability, and that is where your organization must focus. A second growing risk is device compromise. Even if employees never share their MitID credentials directly, malware on a smartphone, tablet, or laptop can steal session information, intercept one-time codes, or manipulate what users see during a transaction. This is particularly relevant as more employees access corporate and financial systems from home networks or personal devices, which are often less protected than office equipment. In Denmark, where remote and hybrid work models are now the norm in many sectors, it is critical to recognize that a compromised private device can be a gateway into your professional environment. Attackers do not need to breach your data center if they can instead exploit a single trusted identity that has broad access. A third area of concern is misuse of MitID by insiders or through weak internal controls. When MitID is used to approve high-value transfers, sign contracts, or access sensitive records, the identity associated with that login becomes a powerful credential from a governance perspective. If one individual has broad entitlements and there is no systematic segregation of duties, an internal user can act beyond their intended mandate. In other cases, employees share access informally to get things done. For example, letting a colleague perform tasks under their MitID when they are absent. Each of these practices erodes the reliability of your identity layer, making it harder to demonstrate compliance, detect fraud, or respond to incidents. A final category of risk is strategic, over-reliance on a single identity mechanism without sufficient monitoring, contingency planning, or complementary controls. When MitID is the key to everything, any disruption, whether from system outages, regulatory changes, or broader incidents, can bring critical processes to a halt. This is not about questioning the MitID infrastructure itself. It is about recognizing that identity is a single point of dependency. Leading Danish organizations treat that dependency like any other significant concentration risk in their operating model. Having outlined these main threat types, let us turn to the practical question: what can you do to protect your business smartly without overcomplicating your operations? The first lever is education, executed with the same rigor you would apply to health and safety training. Every employee who uses MitID in a work-related context should understand the fundamental principles. Never share codes or approve logins that they did not initiate. Always verify website addresses carefully and be skeptical of urgent or emotionally charged messages requesting immediate action. Short, scenario-based training modules tailored to the Danish context, featuring typical messages from banken, skat or digital post, are far more effective than generic e-learning. Reinforce these lessons regularly through internal communications, not as one-off campaigns. The second lever is to strengthen your technical baseline. Ensure that devices used for MitID related work are protected with up-to-date antivirus, operating system patches, and secure configurations. Where feasible, define clear policies for which devices may be used to access sensitive systems via MitID, and consider mobile device management for corporate phones and tablets. Network-level protections, such as DNS filtering and email security gateways, can reduce exposure to phishing pages and malicious links before they reach your users. For higher risk roles, such as finance or system administration, it may be appropriate to restrict MitID usage to hardened company-managed devices only. The third lever is robust access governance and process design. Review how MitID is used within your key business processes: payments, contract signing, HR administration, customer data access, and identify where approvals rely on a single individual. Introduce segregation of duties for high-impact actions so that no single MitID login can execute or approve sensitive transactions end-to-end. Use logging and monitoring to create an auditable trail of who did what, when, and from which device. Align your internal policies with Danish regulatory expectations, especially if you operate in financial services or other supervised industries, and ensure that your use of MitID supports, rather than replaces, sensible internal controls. The fourth lever is incident readiness. Assume that, despite your best efforts, an employee's MitID may at some point be compromised. The question is how quickly you can detect, contain, and recover. Establish a clear process for employees to report suspicious activity, such as unexpected MitID login prompts, unusual messages, or transactions they do not recognize. Designate responsible teams or individuals who know how to react, locking relevant accounts, contacting the bank or MitID support, initiating internal investigations, and documenting the incident. Conduct tabletop exercises to test how your organization would respond to a MitID-related breach in practice. This will not only improve your resilience, but also give you greater confidence when engaging with auditors, customers, and partners. Finally, adopt a balanced, strategic perspective on MitID in your digital roadmap. Treat identity as a critical asset that requires continuous management, not a one-time implementation. Monitor evolving guidance from the Danish authorities, industry bodies, and your key partners. As new MitID features, standards, or replacements emerge over time, evaluate them against your risk appetite and business model rather than adopting them by default. In some cases, you may choose to add additional authentication layers for your most sensitive applications or to segment access more strictly across your organization. All of this can be done pragmatically, without undermining the convenience and efficiency that MitID provides. To summarize, MitID is a powerful enabler of secure digital business in Denmark, but it also concentrates risk in a single identity layer. The main threats, social engineering, device compromise, weak internal controls, and strategic over-reliance, are manageable if you address them systematically. By investing in focused awareness, strengthening your technical foundation, tightening access governance, preparing for incidents, and taking a strategic view of identity, you can protect your business smartly while continuing to leverage the full benefits of Denmark's digital infrastructure. If you lead a Danish organization or operate here as an international company, now is the time to treat MitID risk as an integral part of your overall risk and security agenda, not as a purely IT concern.